Good evening, everyone. I'm Kim Trathen, business and marketing coach, and I'm so excited to be here tonight. This is segment 2 of Girls Talk Business. And if you missed it last week, we had the kickoff segment for good, Lauren is here. Okay. Last week was our kickoff segment for Girls Talk Business. Tonight, I'm excited to bring on Lauren Austin. So bear with me a minute while I get her on. Lauren, an invitation and just click accept to join. Looks like it.
Good
Hello.
evening. Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I have lemon tea tonight. What do you have?
Just water.
Just water?
I wish it was wine. Trust me.
Right.
It's been one of those days.
Yes. Well, I'm so excited you could join me.
When
we get some people that hop on here, I'm just going to give a brief introduction.
Okay.
As people hop on, I'm hoping that they will share with us where they're watching from. So if you're catching this, if you're catching it on replay, comment below that you're catching it on replay. Share with us where you're watching from. Last week's live, they were sprinkled all over the world. So I think it's super interesting and super fun to see where people are watching from. And Lauren, where are you located?
I am located about 30 minutes north of Baltimore, in Maryland, so on the East Coast.
Perfect. And I'm in Michigan, kind of right in the middle of the state in the Lower Peninsula. So yes, I love it. I think last week we had somebody from, I'm trying to remember, the Dominican. I think they were in the UK. Wow. Yeah, there were people all over. So it was super fun to see. Well, I'm really excited that you could join me tonight the second segment of Girls Talk Business. To get started, if you just want to explain a little bit about your business. I believe you do some graphic design work.
I do.
Is that correct? Okay.
So my business, I've always been a creative person. I'm a designer, a little bit of a separate industry, but what I really wanted to do was bring true design, branding, social media marketing to small businesses. I feel like those are the businesses that always need the extra help, not the bigger ones. And I relate more to small business. So I kind of jumped in, finally got my butt going and started my business. And it's only been, I officially started in March and became an LLC, I think in April or May. So
exciting.
It's very, very new, but I actually just landed my first client yesterday.
Yay!
And I had another discovery call today that I think went really well. So proposal goes out tonight and hopefully a contract by next week.
Excellent. That's so exciting. I feel like signing that first client can be such a big hurdle for women to get over, even just mentally, even if they're confident in their skills and you know what you're offering, but signing that first client can do a lot for your confidence and your outlook. And it suddenly feels like it's not wasted time on your business and things like that. So congratulations. That is super, super exciting. So I think I know from your application that you filled out, but if you'll share kind of what was that turning point for you? Were you maybe had these thoughts of launching a business before? And what was that turning point? What was that push? What was that big motivating factor that finally made you take that scary plunge into the world of being an entrepreneur?
So for me, it's a really easy point. It only happened about 6 months ago. I became pregnant with our third child. I have 2 little girls. Emery is 3 and Charlie, she'll be 2 in August. So they're still very, very little.
Yeah.
They have been in daycare because I work a full-time job. So it's never been a problem. But I always wanted to have my own flexibility to take vacations when I want, work when I want, and not feel guilty for having to take a sick day or pick my child up early. I'm very, very fortunate to work for a company and specifically a group of people that have that flexibility. And believe it or not, they're pretty much all male, but they've been very, very awesome and not making me feel guilty, just mom guilt generally. But when we became pregnant with my third child in January and I'm due in September, I knew that would put us over the edge financially for daycare. That was the absolute max point. So it was, okay, well, I'm going to have to stay home, quit my job, or something's going to have to change. And I've been working it out with my company to see what they can do. They've been very flexible. However, because it's always been a goal to have my own business. My husband owns his own business.
Oh, okay.
And I've seen that flexibility and that passion and drive, being able to implement that. It was like, okay, well, I can try this. I have the time. Let me try to start it and see where I can get. If I can't, worst case scenario, I quit and I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, absolutely at all. It's just, for me, I need to have an outlet as a creative person. So even if it's 2 hours a week, I'm going to need to do something.
Yes.
And so that's what I did. I finally said, okay, that's it. I'm starting. I didn't know exactly, all these years, I knew I wanted to do something, but I somehow came across virtual assistants. And although I'm not the bookkeeping type, I'm not the true admin type, I have the creative services that a lot of people don't have. So I became a creative virtual assistant, and I can help people nationally. My first client is actually in California. So
oh, wow. Literally across the United States.
Literally across the United States. So, but things are so digital now. It makes it so easy. And for me, starting my business debt-free was also a big thing that I was very passionate about doing. So I took a small chunk of money. I think I mentioned this to you, a small chunk of money, paid for my domain name, paid for my Squarespace website, and just everything I've been doing is on my own time to build it slowly. But and I'm getting there. So
yes, I love that. I did the same thing because I also didn't want to go into debt to start my business. So I did the same thing where we took money out of savings and used that to purchase the domain and my branding photo shoot and anything like that I needed. I used some of our savings for it because same thing, it just felt really important to me not to go into debt over it. I was in a very similar situation as you. So and everybody has different ways that they do things. And obviously you and I were fortunate that we had the money in savings to be able to do that. I fully realized too, that not everybody is in a financial situation where they have access to liquid savings to be able to invest in their business like that.
Sure.
So I think it's helpful if you are in that situation, but I recognize that not everybody is. And sometimes they need to extend themselves further or borrow from family or use a credit card or get a small business loan, whatever it might be. It's interesting that you talk about the mom guilt too, because I think that is something that probably 99%, I'm making up statistics right now just to be clear, but I feel like this is probably accurate. I feel like probably 99% of moms feel mom guilt, whether they're working outside of the home, working inside the home. And I think even stay-at-home moms, I know my friends that stay at home, they experience a different type of mom guilt where they're not contributing financially to the family and that they felt some guilt from that aspect. But it's funny too, because my corporate employer had always been so wonderful and so understanding, but I still felt guilty on both ends too, where then if I was home with my kids because they were sick, I felt guilty that I wasn't at work. And I felt it's like I had employee guilt and I had mom guilt.
Right. It comes no matter what. I think a lot of moms do feel like they're missing time with their kids.
Especially when they're so little too, when they're not in school all the time.
Right. And for me, yes, when they were little. Now, actually, I'm feeling guilty about pulling them out of daycare when I go full time, because my children love their daycare and they've learned so much that I'm actually afraid I'm not going to be able to keep up with how far advanced they are for their ages at school. So regardless of what you do, you're going to feel guilt.
Yep, more mom guilt. We really know how to pile it on ourselves as moms.
It's free, and we just decide to accept it.
Yes, we do. So what would you say, it can be super scary to think of launching a business. It can be scary to talk to your husband about it or your partner. It can be scary to tell your family about it. Did you deal with any of those struggles, or were you pretty confident, especially with your husband already owning a business? Were you nervous to tell any of your family that you were embarking on this new journey, or was it kind of not a big deal since your husband already owns a business?
Well, my husband, I'm very, very, very fortunate. He's my biggest supporter. He is the person that says, no, go do it. If you need me to watch the kids for, an hour where you get quiet time, go do it. He has his own business, and we, plenty of times he's had to get on a conference call, and I specifically have to either keep the kids quiet or outside. But he's been, hey, if you need to start, here, if we need money, like, let's do that. That's not a problem. If you need to travel, like, go. He doesn't think about the logistics. He just knows that he wants me to do whatever makes me happy. And
that's so wonderful.
He even worried about me staying home, knowing that I struggled with that for a long time of, I don't think I could ever stay home just because of my own personal drive. So now that that's the plan, he's already said we'll do whatever it takes to make this work. With my family, I'm actually much, believe it or not, much closer with my in-laws.
Okay.
They have become more my family than my own personal family from just history. They're also very supportive. So for them, they don't know tons. They know I've started something. They know because I plan on staying home that's my goal. I haven't shared the news of a client yet. Not that I don't need to, but it just happened. But that's really exciting. And my first thing is I want to tell them. For everything else, my biggest fear and the biggest struggle of telling people is, one, I don't want to feel like I'm bragging, because that's not right. Oh, hold on, a little screen shut up. But also, I think my biggest thing is I don't want to sound like this thing is so great and then it not succeed and feel like I failed. So part of me keeps some of it close to my heart until good things start to happen, so that I don't have to explain why it didn't work or go back and change that.
And I think that's really common too. And I know when I started on my journey, I actually wasn't sure in the very beginning what business I wanted to start. I just knew that I wanted to help women, and I kind of took a look at my skill set in marketing and business and things like that, and kind of mapped out where my skill set was and what my passions were, who I wanted to work with, and it developed from there. But when I first started telling family members that this is what I'm looking at doing, I know I was met with some negativity from some family members, but a big part of it was too is that they didn't understand the online space.
Right.
And so I finally had to come to terms with the fact that it's not my job to educate every friend and family member about what I do and how you run an online business. You know, it's not my job whether they understand it or not, but it was kind of a process that I had to work through, that they didn't just immediately embrace all of my excitement for what I was working on.
Yeah, for me personally, I've noticed this with other things. I think my family and friends just know my personality, that I don't care what they think. Okay. So therefore they don't give me their opinions, because
they keep it to themselves.
Right, because I'm just, I don't care, and you know, or I'll completely contradict what they say, you know, give them a reason why. But that's completely okay with me. So
yes.
But I completely understand other people. I know older family members would have no idea if I tried to explain.
Oh my gosh,
what this is to them. So it's not even a point. You know, maybe when I'm home and they're wondering what I'm doing, fine. But at this point, it's not.
Yes, I know. Even my mom will ask me questions, and I'll tell her some things, and she'll be like, I have no idea what that means, honey, but I'm happy if you're happy. She'll just admit it, like she has no idea.
But that's the thing, right? As long as you're getting the support and they're okay, then that's all that matters. And that's how you know who's on your side too.
Yes. And I agree. It's so helpful. My husband is like yours, super supportive, and I can't even count the number of Saturday mornings that he stays home with the kids, and I'll go work at a coffee shop or attend a networking event. And he never, lays the guilt trip or anything like that. And it is super helpful when your partner is on board and you have that extra support. My heart goes out to the women that I've talked with that don't have a supportive partner, where the partner maybe questions spending the money on the business or questions the time, is this really going to go anywhere? And my heart goes out to them, because I think that would be super difficult to deal with and to keep plugging along when it is a risk. Anytime you start a business, it's a risk. So I always think that must be extra difficult when they struggle with that with their husband or partner. It looks like we have a few people that have joined us. For those of you that have hopped on, share where you're watching from. I love to see where the Girls Talk Business series, how far out it spreads across the world. Share where you're watching from, and share with us what struggles that you've had along the way of launching your business, or if you're thinking about launching it, what is stopping you at this point? Do you worry? Do you have a supportive partner at home? Do you worry about telling people? And I would also love to know how many moms versus non-moms we have on here, because I know, like Lauren, launching your business when there's this big family change coming, whether it's having another baby, your kids finally going to school full time. I think there's different, but a lot of times kids are kind of in the center of that circle that forces you to take this plunge and make this change. But for the non-moms out there, I would also love to hear what was your turning point where you finally decided this is what you needed to do and you needed to start your own business regardless of what regardless of what anybody else thinks. So I would also love to know, Lauren, I jotted down a few notes here.
Sure.
So you just launched in March, April. You're using Squarespace. I think that technology can be a big scary point for some women when they're launching their business, because if they haven't worked in a job before where they've maybe written websites and things like that, they get really nervous about it. Did you have prior website experience from your corporate job, or was that a hurdle that you had to personally work through?
Not so much from the corporate job. Because I've done graphics, I'm in Photoshop and Illustrator almost every day. So from that side, I know those programs very well. I went to school. I've come across this process a lot lately. I don't believe you need a degree to be a designer, but you definitely need training and courses. That's come up a lot. But I went to school. I have an art degree. And so I've spent a lot with that. In terms of web, I picked up some of that from school, some of that from the corporate world. But I actually dove in probably about 2007. I started Baltimore's kind of first wedding blog. It was called Charm City Bride. It lasted a couple years, and it actually took off way more than I thought it would. And at the time, I was not ready. And also a little naive about blogs and kind of how they make money and just how much time that whole aspect of. I made a lot of good connections, but eventually it just became too much. And actually, I wasn't at that point in my life anyway. It was started kind of by a friend getting engaged.
Okay.
But I taught myself everything, I think at the time that was through Blogger. So I learned some HTML, it changed the whole site to be exactly what I wanted. So it was tutorials and learning on my own. And from there, I've done a WordPress blog for my own. It was a family blog, but I actually have just closed that one because I realized for me, a blog was not a good business venture. For me, it's actually working. And then recently I've started posting maybe once a month, just helpful tips for small business owners. Just to have a place where I can put some information.
And so is that linked on your website?
It is. It's on my website, Lauren Austin Creative /blog. I just posted yesterday my first post. But
awesome.
Just like my newsletter, it'll probably be just once a month. That way it's not just a constant overflow of randomness. I really want to make sure that I'm putting out stuff that people actually want to read and learn from.
Yes, that's awesome. So tell me too, I believe that you also owned an Etsy shop for a couple of years.
I did.
So what were you selling on Etsy?
So I like to do crafts. I like to work with my hands. I was doing party supplies. So paper fans, like the round accordion style paper fans, that's primarily what I did. And believe it or not, people bought them for their parties. And I guess not so much a crazy idea because they're beautiful when you use a lot of them and display them. But the biggest thing was I would make them so that they were full size and ship them. So shipping was expensive and people would pay for the shipping. And I did that. Pretty much a year and a half up to our wedding. And then kind of we moved and I got pregnant with our first child, and it was like, okay, I'm done kind of folding fans, but it was fun while it lasted.
I'm done folding fans. There's a sentence I've never heard before.
Yes. Yeah, it was just something to do. But when you have a baby and you move right before you have a baby, then you have a baby. It's just sitting there doing fans is not your priority. So.
Yes. Okay, I want to look at some of the comments that have come in here a minute.
Sure.
Nurika's on. Hi, Nurika. She's watching us from Florida, and she is a mommy to one of the cutest little girls that I've ever seen. She is so adorable. Hi, Miriam. You are very close to me. You're in Rockford. Awesome. And Miriam said that one of her challenges, let's see if I can expand this. Okay, one of her challenges is finding time to expand my network between teaching full-time, a hubby, and 3 small kiddos. Yes, preach it, Miriam, preach it. I completely agree. Time management. Oh my gosh. And Lauren, with you being pregnant too, I'm sure you're exhausted and tired, and then you're juggling the 2 small children.
Yep, this needs to be coffee.
Yeah, yeah, something caffeinated at this point. So I know for me, and Lauren, I want to hear if you have any tricks up your sleeve. So for me with juggling, because I also have 3 kids, I have 3 boys, and they are ages 11, 7, and 5. So next school year will be the first time that I have all 3 in school full time. And then nice. Right now I still work in corporate, and then I'm off on Fridays. So I do a lot of work on Fridays and the weekends on my business, and I love it. It's amazing. But time management, so all 3 of my boys are involved in multiple sports. There was 1 week during baseball season, we had 7 baseball games between the 3 boys. So I get it.
Note to self, do not sign up for baseball.
No, no baseball. No baseball. They also do break dance, baseball, Cub Scouts, basketball, football. So we're getting it all covered here.
Yeah.
And I try to make all their events, right? Like as moms, that's part of supporting our kids, and we want to watch them and see them and cheer them on. But time management definitely gets tricky when you're juggling all of their schedules. Like it's not just your schedule, it's all of their schedules too.
Right.
So time blocking is something that has been really helpful for me. And for me, I am the most productive if I can leave the house. It kind of depends on what I'm working on, but like for me, when I was building my website, I really needed to focus, or when I was putting together my first ever freebie offer, and it was a pretty lengthy workbook, I needed time to be hyper-focused, because if I'm sitting at the computer in my living room and I have, you know, the boys coming up to me every 5 minutes and somebody wants whatever, I hear the dryer buzz, So for me, having that time that my husband would stay home, or I would send my youngest to daycare on Fridays and the other 2 older ones were in school, then if I had that alone time or go to the coffee shop, I could block out that time on my schedule, and I was much more productive during that time. Yeah. And one of my little tricks that worked really well in the coffee shop pertains to social media, because every time my phone would ding or I'd see, oh, who liked my post on Instagram? Did somebody comment? So I turn my phone on vibrate so that if somebody's trying to get a hold of me and there's some emergency, yes, Narika just said my kids are so active. That's why one had smashed toes last week. The other one broke his leg 2 weeks ago. I mean, we're constantly also in medical issues.
Yes.
So I put my phone on vibrate so that if there's some emergency and somebody needs to get a hold of me, I'll notice it buzzing, but I won't see all the social media notifications that come through. And then when I'm at like the coffee shop, I put it on vibrate, and then I set it face down on the table so that I can't see, the notification come through on my home screen. And that has really helped me, because sometimes I think, like a lot of people, I have social media ADD, where it just comes through and I'm like, oh, what's going on? I need to read everything now.
Before you know it, you're in there half an hour and you're lost time.
Yeah. So Lauren, what do you find works for you with your 2 little ones at home? Are you still able to work at home and get stuff done, or do you have to do anything differently for you to be productive?
So for me, at least lately, now that I'm taking discovery calls, I've actually taken 2 discovery calls at lunch. So I have my scheduling automatically set up. People can schedule. So that's during lunchtime. Typically, because they're in daycare, I don't see them much between the time we get home and bedtime. It's 2 hours for the little one and maybe 3 for the older one. So that is tough. I have been trying to block time in my schedule and my calendar. It doesn't always work, but I'm trying to get on a regular schedule with myself. So weekend mornings, our family's unfortunately, our family is all up in the morning, so I don't get a lot of quiet time. Yes. But I do try to go in my office for some time to get things done. And worst case scenario, if I have to sit on the couch, to be there, it's just hard for me because I like to be present with them. That's my other thing. Like if I take myself out of the situation, they don't see me not focused on them, and then I can come back and be completely focused. So getting out of the house is my biggest thing. Or at nighttime when everybody's quiet, the older one, that's her iPad time is right before bed. So I do get quite a bit done then. But again, with social media, it's so tough, you know,
because it's like a vortex. You just get sucked into it.
You'll go on Facebook to post something for yourself, or Instagram to post something for yourself, and then you'll see, oh, that's interesting. And so it's, for me, I got to get into a rhythm, and I've already started writing a schedule for after maternity leave. Kind of, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to fit client time in? And I'll be home with the kids. I'll be home with 3 kids, 2 kids and a newborn.
And no sleep.
And no sleep. But nap time, certainly. And, you know, we're making some changes. My husband, again, being supportive that he is, if he has to work, you know, take a half a day on a Friday so that I can actually get some time done, then he can work either that evening or spread it out so that we can just, you know, he works on the weekends sometimes too. So it's just, we're both self-employed, or at the time we will be, and you just got to make it work. So,
now I know that sometimes it can be hard for women too when you're still in corporate and you're trying to launch your business. Like, have you had to be pretty careful about them knowing you're launching a side business, or is it pretty much out in the open for you there?
So being there almost 13 years, it will be in September. You know, I've known my manager since I started as an intern. And, you know, I'm pretty open. He actually knows I am starting a business, so that's not hidden. I try not to work, you know, on my personal business while I'm at work. Lunchtime, you know, I'll check emails and stuff like that. But they know that setting up for this change in my kind of work life is coming. And I've kind of essentially said, you know, 3 is not going to financially support me unless you're willing to pay me X amount of dollars, which you're not.
Right.
I've been very frank, and they've known that. And then, you know, also, I got to watch out for me, my best interest. And so they're very aware. Like I said, we're trying to work through it. They may actually contract hours from me, which will be nice.
Okay.
That might be helpful just generally as a transition for both of us.
So
kind
of bridge the gap on both ends.
Yeah, like help them, because, you know, again, me leaving and is going to not be great for them. But at the same time, me leaving is not going to be great for me either. So we've worked it out that I actually will probably contract to them, or they'll be my client actually for whatever hours they need. But it's not just tons of public knowledge, but yes, my manager, my direct manager is aware. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's nice that you've been able to have some of those more open conversations with them at work. Because, you know, I know some people that have been in the situation where they have to hide every little piece of it. And that, you know, they worry about losing their job and things like that if their employer were to find out. And, you know, nobody wants to lose their job anyhow, but especially before you're financially ready to, you know, segue into the full-time into your own business. So that's great that you've been able to talk with them about that.
For me, like I said, I have history with them. You know, I've known them. I actually started the week my manager's first child was born, and now she's, you know, 12 going on 13.
Teenager.
So, yes. So, you know, there's history there. And at the same time, I mean, what's for me in the position that I'm in now, where I know that regardless I'm going to have to stay home, I also have the mentality of, what's the worst going to happen? They fire me now a couple months earlier than what I was left. Yes, that would be awful. Yeah. And that's a couple months money that I would lose and benefits. But I would rather be open with people that I've known this long. So I'm just in that particular situation.
Yes, completely. And, you know, one thing that I think women can do too, if they are worried about their employer finding out, is that, like, at least Facebook gives you the option of, you know, you can put people in different friend lists on Facebook. So if somebody is starting a business and they don't want their coworkers to know that they're on Facebook with, then you can just put all of those coworkers into a separate group on Facebook, and they don't ever have to see your post on your personal page. Now, obviously, if you launch a business page, that's open to the public and they could find that. But in regards to posting on your personal page, you know, you can set it up so that they don't see those posts, which can be helpful sometimes. Hi, Gia. I see Gia joined us. She joined us last week, too. And I think this fall you will see Gia as my spotlight guest on Girls Talk Business. So I'm glad you could join us again, Gia. Awesome. So the last thing, Lauren, that I had on my list, if you wanted to talk a little bit about, I think you had a special deal that you were willing to extend out to for the Girls Talk Business series. And if maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, you can drop the link in the comments afterwards, or I can add it into the description of the post. And maybe talk a little bit about that, what it is, and how long the offer is valid for. I'm assuming it's not indefinite, but I'm not sure what you had in mind with that. So
yeah,
you want to talk about that for a little bit.
So you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, because now I'm trying to remember what I wrote, but I believe it was 10. I know, it's awful. Pregnancy brain, new business. I actually just walked through the door from work before I started this, so it's all over the place.
You know, pregnancy brain is a real thing, and I think business totally brain is too. Like, I think you just get to this point where you're just, whew.
I used to brag that I had a great memory, photographic memory. Like, I can't remember anything anymore, and it's awful. And yeah. So I think it was 10% off all my services. Is that
yes, that is what you said.
I hope that's right. So if you go to LaurenAustinCreative.com/rates, it's a hidden website. You'll only be able to see it if you have the link. So you can see some of the packages that I offer, and I will be offering 10% off any of the packages for anybody that's on this live call for the next, let's say, till the end of July. We'll do the end of July.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I am getting busier now for those that missed. Just got my first client. I think I'm about to sign my second client who, if things go well, will actually grow. And then I just got another email from somebody who I was doing work for before I started my business, just graphic support, not an ongoing thing, but he always comes back with more projects. So certainly awesome. I'm getting my plate full. It's like, okay, at what point do I start saying no so that I don't get too overwhelmed, especially before the new baby in September.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we're getting
and maybe
there.
You kind of have to juggle how long some of those projects are.
Yes. I had a client ask me, well, do you have plans for maternity leave? The first client. And I said, that's a great question. I think it's going to depend on the client and what you need, but I plan on supporting everybody the same. If I have to make posts weeks in advance, that's fine. But as a small business owner, you don't get 3 weeks maternity leave. You can cut back and make arrangements, but you just don't. You get that cut and dry. You can't do that.
Yes, it's different. There's pros and cons to every situation, and sometimes you have to make a few sacrifices to build that life that you really want. So, well, I'm so excited that you just recently signed your first client, have a next one in the pipeline. Thank you so much for that generous offer to people that catch the Girls Talk Business series, and I'm so happy that you were able to come on with me tonight and take some time out of your day and join us. Yes. Thank you so much.
I'd stay on this call longer because my kids are gone. And then my husband took the kids. So I'm like, this is nice. It's quiet in here.
You're like, this is fantabulous.
You want to sure you don't want to talk more? Move them off.
Yeah. You got more water there?
I do. This is a very large cup.
It looks like it. So that would be a big cup of coffee.
It says, Mom, I need some coffee. I think it's the size of 2 coffee cups.
Yes. Half a pot fits in there. It's totally fine.
That's okay.
Totally fine.
It's going to get cold anyway, right?
Yeah, so you got to drink it faster.
You're going to reheat it like 4 times.
So we do that too. The coffee in our coffee pot, I did make a fresh pot this morning, but it'll probably still be there. It's like Sunday, and we'll just keep reheating it.
I use it for iced coffee the next day. I just throw it in the fridge. Yes, I do. And I am not a snob when it comes to leftover coffee.
Clearly, I'm not either.
Caffeine's the same. It does not matter.
Oh, well, it was so wonderful to meet you, and thank you again for coming on this segment. I absolutely loved it, and we will be in touch, and best of luck with your new clients and with your pregnancy.
Thank you.
You got a lot going on. You got a lot going on.
I do, but it never stops.
Nope, it doesn't. It doesn't. Well, thank you again, and best of luck to you.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Everyone.
Thanks.